Jessica Jones, episode 7, aka Top Shelf Perverts. Now, I really love this episode because from the start of it, it's like this comes after the wake of Luke Cage realizing exactly what happened to his wife. So, Jessica starts off on a pretty downhill slope. It's like she starts off, she gets thrown out of a bar, thrown into the trash, and it's like, alright, she's just on a downward spiral. And then we find out that she's actually there. She's actually doing the case for Jerry, so it's an interesting, pseudo balance, I guess. But then things once again take a bit of a dark turn where she kind of screws up. And, when you drop someone on the train tracks, you can typically, you will force them to come back with a counterattack. And that's exactly what happens. And now Jerry is kind of thrown into this really crappy situation where it's like, you will be disbarred and, that's it. Your livelihood is gone unless I get, it started off at 75%. So it's like you're basically screwed. So Jessica kind of messed that up, and preemptive strike didn't exactly play out like it should have because she was kind of on a messed up spiral and she was screwed up from what happened with Luke Cage. So she went way further than she should have with things, and that kind of messed up all of what Jerry kind of had planned. So she kind of screws that up, and then we have, of course, Kilgrave actually being inside of Jessica's apartment. It started off really simple. It was weird. It was like, okay, she's going around, or he's going around, and then Ruben knocks on the door, and I started off simple. It was like, all right, this could be okay. And then, of course, when he asked him, like, why did you do that, or why are you bringing her banana bread? It's like, because she helped me and my sister, and I love her. And as soon as he said that, I knew it was over for him. I'm like, he's gonna die because he said that. And it really makes way more sense towards the end, but even in the beginning of this episode, I was like, maybe it was like that, I didn't think that Kilgrave had this really warped sense of love that he had for Jessica, which of course gets explained at the end. Honestly, I just thought it was like he enjoys kind of the game he plays, like he does like her, and he always talks about how, she, like with Hope, of course Jessica with having super strength could jump way higher. So it's all these little things that he compares. So if she's like kind of this image in his head that's just perfect to him, but I didn't think it really had anything to do with love. I honestly thought it was just she's this very powerful thing that he's never had before. It's like the first and only time he's ever controlled someone that was so incredibly powerful. So that's why he was after her all the time, and he decided, I'll make a game of it this time and kind of earn it like he did with her house. And then we get the end of this episode where that's all out the window. He just flat out has a crazy sense of love. Like, this is his idea of saying, this is how I love you. This is how I show that I love you. And it's insane. Like, it was crazy. And we got the really awesome scene where everyone's kind of pointing their guns at each other at the police station, which is one of the scenes I was looking forward to for the show because of the trailer. And then that comes after a lot of insanity because Malcolm decides he's going to help Jessica after not only this crazy downward spiral from the beginning, and then a continued downward spiral as her plan evolves into, I'm going to go to Supermax prison to bring him in and force him to talk with me, in a place that'll be completely recorded, which oddly enough, that's exactly what happens, but he, of course, tells the guy to delete all the security footage. But it was just really crazy. Like, that was the craziest plan. Like, everyone thought it was a bad idea because it definitely was. And then she has Malcolm. Well, Malcolm gets rid of the body because he's trying to help her. He gets Trish's help, and she's kind of like, as soon as she sees the dead body, she totally goes off, and it's like she's about to shoot Malcolm. So it's like, what the heck did you do? And this and that, and there's blood all over the place, which is a great starting scene when she finally woke up on the elevator. And so he helps her get into the apartment and everything. And it's like, all right. She bumped into that little container, which I knew was important. Like, I was like, they're going to play this off, which is exactly what they did. They played it off as just this random thing she bumped into. But I knew it was important because it was the exact same tin that they showed in the last episode. So I thought that it was going to be that little flash drive, but we don't get that in this episode. And, it was pretty interesting to see that happen because it was like, what, me thinking it was a flash drive, I thought it was going to be this big thing, but it ends up being her diary, which does end up having a bit of importance because of, everything that happens at the station where it's like, oh, I left you a gift, which you clearly didn't find. So once you find it, let me know when you're ready. Come home, basically. So there was just a long line of craziness happening. Like her being messed up from telling Luke the truth, her screwing up the whole sign the papers deal, um, her terrible plan to go to Supermax, of course, and then she goes through with it. She goes and gets Ruben's body and rips his head off, and it's like, boom, this is what I get because she gets the information from Jerry. Like, how do, who gets put in Supermax? So it's like, boom, here's a head, take me to Supermax prison. And all of that just falls apart. Like, everything in this episode for her was kind of just bad. Like, by the end, the only good thing that happened is no one actually died in the in the police station. Like, thank goodness no one else's phone rang. Like, that was pretty much the only good thing about this episode, is that no one actually died during that scene. No one technically died. After Ruben, which still really sucked, no one was hurt anymore. So there wasn't like just a bunch of people that died at the end of this episode, which easily could have been the case. And Kilgrave just walks out. It's like, all right, that's deleted. And he had this really weird moment, when he was talking about the love after the phone rang. It's like, this is, horrible lights and it smells like piss and the stupid phone's ringing, and he's like, he, throws the papers like, I'm trying to confess my love and everything. And it showed how insane he was. Because this wasn't just like, I want to torture her because she left me to die. It's like, maybe that's how it started, and then it evolved or something, and it was kind of like, it was always sort of back and forth a little bit, since he had, so much time to think about it. And then, at this point in time, it's like, no, it's just because I love you, and it's his insane, evil, form of showing that. So I don't really know what to expect from it. Like, that was just, it was a crazy thing to see, and it was really fun. And then this comes after, pretty much everyone had their own weird plan in this episode. Like, Trish had her own plan to go after Kilgrave, which, of course, Simpson finds out about it. Then he has his own plan and says, like, oh, I don't, are you sure these are the right guys for Kilgrave's detail? Right when he sees them, so he decides, I'm going to go, go it alone. And then Malcolm trying to help Jessica. Everyone had a plan, and Malcolm's plan was probably the best one, just simply to help, which that in itself was also really dangerous, because it's like, there's a lot that comes with cleaning up, all this blood and wrapping up a dead body and taking it somewhere. And I don't know how he got to the water, if he just dragged the body, because I doubt he has a car. So I'm assuming, he just had Trish's car, and that's how they, worked that out. But he probably had the best plan, and even that was dangerous, because he could have easily been caught with a dead body. And then it's like, well, now you got to explain what the heck's happening. But ultimately, it was just a crazy episode. And then it ends with Jessica going back home. Like, we get the little flashback of her when she's younger, and we get to see her with Trish's mom, who we also meet in this episode, which is very interesting. And because like her thing is like, oh, I'm gonna kind of solve all my issues and kind of tie up a lot of the loose ends. And ultimately what happens is we get to actually meet Trish's mom, and we hear how bad she really was. And they show it in the flashback when she gets in the car. And this is kind of like, it makes sense now for the former episode, before we find out, or before Jessica found out about the training and everything. That's why she was freaking out that it was her mom, because she hit her. And it was almost like exactly the same. Like, I'm pretty sure there was some specific scene where she actually had the scarf and like threw it around her neck, and I think it was when she was at like the radio station or something. And it was kind of the same thing where they did it, where she covered up the bruises using a scarf, and it was like the same thing. It may have just been a jacket there, but I feel like there was some scene where she did the exact same thing, and they did it again in the flashbacks. But maybe I'm just mixing that up with Malcolm doing it, because he's probably the only person that actually had a scarf. But it was really cool getting to see her mom, and we get to see, they had like the poster of It's Patsy from when she was really young on the TV show, and it was just really interesting. It's like, you stay away from her like a normal restraining order, 500 feet, and it just shows how crappy her mom truly was, and how, they talk about how basically that led to Trish drinking in the past, and how it just really screwed her up. And so, that's kind of a part of what made Trish, and I would assume, because initially I just thought the whole training thing was totally because of Kilgrave, because it's like, oh, Kilgrave's back, and that's why she was doing that. But after, this actual episode, it's like maybe it's a combination. It's like she doesn't, because she mentioned like she doesn't want anyone to hurt her. So maybe it's just she was kind of just building it up, saving her money so that she could get kind of her little fortress that she has. And part of it was Kilgrave, but it started when she was really young, and when Jessica finally helped her escape from her mother. That's kind of when she really kind of kicked it into high gear and decided Jessica can't win all my battles for me, which she mentioned before in a really early episode. She mentioned like you can't help me fight my battles all the time, and that's pretty much what that was. Like she helped with her mother, so it was really cool to meet her mom. Really loved the ending. I have watched. I'm on like episode 10 right now. I just started 10, but I'm trying to get like through all the reviews because I'm trying not to blend them all together because some things happen. Is like there's so many shots in like a certain place. I'll be mixing up episodes, so I'm trying to like get through them. And all the noise you're hearing is the dog walking around because he's deciding to just not. Chewie just gonna run around. Yeah. So that's what all that little noise was. But I like this episode. It was a really fun one, and I love the way that it ended, where Jessica she goes to the house, and it's just like, holy crap, like what in the world's gonna happen next? But it was a great episode. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it though, so please comment below and let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And with Jessica's like just terrible plan in this episode, I want to know what you guys would have done if like if you're in this situation. That's a crazy question to ask because that's like you have to really wrap your mind around just all the insanity involved in the series. But do you think that was a good plan that Jessica had to go to Supermax, or did you think it was a bad idea like I did? And pretty much everyone in the entire episode was like, that's a terrible idea to put yourself in prison. And it really was. Like, I understand why, obviously, getting Supermax, plain and simple, getting Supermax, have recordings, done and done. But, yeah, it was just a bad idea from the start. But I want to know, would you guys have done the same thing? Or, simpler version, do you think it was a good idea? Like, was her plan good, or do you think it was bad as well? So, please, comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.